The dumbest advice to handle overthinking thoughts has helped me and thousands of people because it's in this book called The Worry Trick, which has helped thousands of people. And the advice is to treat your overthinking thoughts like a heckler at a comedy show. So I do stand-up comedy sometimes, right? And if a heckler was like arguing with me, I wouldn't argue back with them. So when you have this overthinking thought, like, oh, well, what if I die? Well, you don't sit there and argue with the thought. For example, like if I had a heckler at a comedy show and they were like, oh, your jokes aren't funny. I wouldn't sit there and be like, well, actually, my jokes are funny because, I've been doing stand-up for a little bit and sometimes I get laughs. Like, this wouldn't work, right? This wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't continue the performance well. I wouldn't be able to move on to the next thing because I'd be arguing with this person. And, you need to be able to move on to the next topic to move on with your life, right? If you have these overthinking thoughts and you get stuck in this loop that you're arguing with them, you're not moving on. So it's like the way to handle your overthinking thoughts is like a heckler at a comedy show. So what would I do if I had a heckler at a comedy show? If they were like, oh, your jokes aren't funny, I could be like, yeah, my mom says that all the time too. So it's like you make a joke out of it, right? You almost agree with them and make it more ridiculous. And if you do this with your thoughts, then they become less serious. They become more like jokes. So I'll give you the same example. What if I die? Yeah, what if I die and then I turn into a ghost and then I haunt everyone who ever wronged me? Do you see how I'm taking the thought and I'm taking the power away from it? Because I'm not treating it like a serious thought, because the thought isn't the problem. The problem is our response to the thought, because if it controls our decisions, then it controls our life. But if it doesn't control our decisions, then it doesn't control our life. And then after that, you'll get less of those thoughts because your actions determine some of your thoughts as well, right? The more you do things, the less you'll have thoughts that are not related to those things. Like I'll give you an example. The more you go to the gym, the more you have thoughts about going to the gym, and the less you have thoughts about skipping the gym. The more you post videos, the less you have thoughts about posting videos. So it's like our actions do somewhat determine part of our thoughts. But when you have these thoughts that you can't control, that are like overthinking what if thoughts, you don't argue with them, because then you get in this spiral, and that spiral is never going to be helpful because you'll never win the argument. You can never win an argument with a what if thought process because you can't predict the future. Like, same example, if you had the thought, what if I die? Well, then your mind might be like, well, I'm probably not going to die because I lived all of these days, and why would I die just randomly? Oh, what if you do? What if you get hit by a car? There's so many ways, there's so many possibilities that part of your mind can come up with to try and win the argument, because you can't predict the future. So there's endless possibilities that part of your mind will come up with. So it's like, don't sit there and argue with something that has endless possibilities. No, just make fun of it. Have some humor with it, and then move on to the next thing that you're doing. Make sure it doesn't control your decisions, because the main thing that we want is this to not impact our decisions. Like, if you had this thought process like, oh, what if I die? And then you stayed in your room for the rest of your life, then it's like you wouldn't have lived a fulfilling life. And that one thought would have controlled the decisions that you made for the rest of your life. So it's like, don't let that happen. Make sure that you're not treating your thoughts so seriously. Humor them. Treat them like a heckler at a comedy show, because then you don't have to argue with them. You don't have to get in this spiral. You can just move on with your life. And this has helped me so much. And again, this is from the book The Worry Trick. And of course, it's not going to be easy at first. If you're used to arguing with these thoughts, it'll take some time and effort to break that cycle, to start humoring them. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So even though it won't be easy at first, it will be worth it. Life's not easy, but it's worth it. Take care.